Over the years, if you've been online, you've seen a growing uprising of young men questioning whether they should get married or not.
Why would I get married? Why? There's no actual reason to get married. It can complicate things.
By and large, young men are much more skeptical to the institution of marriage than they ever have been. Now, you could say this is due to the secularization of Western culture, and I think while that plays a part in it, we need to go deeper. So in today's video, we're going to hear from a number of voices exploring why men are just turned off to the idea of marriage. And in the second half of the video, I'm going to share with you, guys and girls, both some rules that you can follow if you're looking to get married or if you're questioning getting married. Hey, quick thing here before we get into today's video. If you have ever struggled or are currently struggling with pornography, getting some sort of accountability is a no-brainer. And now with Covenant Eyes, it's made easier than ever before. It's an accountability software that will send a monthly report of your internet usage to someone in your life to help keep you accountable. Take this seriously. Click the link in my description and get 30 days free. It's been so helpful for so many people, so take this next step. Let's get into the video.
Why would I get married? Why? There's no actual reason to get married. It can complicate things. I have some friends that just have a woman they love and they had kids and they just didn't get married. I find them happier than those that get married.
There's something about it. I don't know what it is, but I feel like once you put the marriage title on it, there's just this
like
added
too,
pressure
right? Yeah.
that like the relationship doesn't need.
So it makes a lot of sense to me that two average guys would look at marriage and look at the guy who just kind of has a girlfriend and maybe has some kids as the ideal. Like, why do you need to throw an expensive wedding? Why do you need to, put this label on it? It just adds so much pressure, makes things so much less fun. And then also, if you break up, there's the possibility of divorce. And divorce is just, going to ruin men, honestly, which I think is a huge reason these days that men don't want to get married. It is the fear of being divorced. And we know women, by and large, are the ones who initiate that kind of divorce. And we'll see that later in some of these stories that we're going to watch here, that it is prevalent. And it is kind of not an unrealistic fear for a lot of people because this happens. But I would just say, as a Christian myself, somebody that wants to honor God with my life, somebody that's heart has been transformed by him, I see marriage very differently than somebody that's not a Christian, right? I can understand from their perspective that it just doesn't make any sense and that it adds a lot of pressure. But for me, I can understand that pressure, and I think that pressure is God-given. The Bible says that, if a man doesn't provide for his family, that he's worse than an unbeliever, right? So that is a pressure that's put on men. It says that men should love their wives as Christ loved the church. That is pressure. That is a calling. It doesn't really say a lot about boyfriends and girlfriends because there isn't that covenantal relationship. Let's continue on here.
Is everyone going through a breakup right now? I feel like I have so many friends who have just turned 30 and they're either going through a breakup or a divorce or something crazy. And it's interesting because I actually got my divorce 2 weeks after I turned 30. And I remember being like, oh my God, I'm 30. 3 years ago today, I met my boyfriend and my life was like completely changed. So before I met him, I got my divorce at the end of, or my separation at the end of 2018. And then shortly after that, I reconnected with somebody from college and we had like a 2.5-year situationship. And it's funny because the divorce was hard, but the situationship ending was so much worse. And it's funny because it reminds me of the Tortured Poets Department. Taylor wrote this entire album about this situationship and had like 1 or 2 songs about the 6-year relationship in her life.
I just imagine her ex-husband watching this, and I don't know the context of the divorce, obviously, and I do want to say there are legitimate reasons to divorce. You talk about infidelity, abuse, where divorce, even by biblical standards, is permitted. So I don't know what's going on here in this context of this story, but I just imagine her ex-husband watching this video and hearing her say that, her situationship with her boyfriend after the divorce was so much more painful than her, whatever it was, 6-year marriage. That would hurt. The truth is, divorce has been normalized to a great extent in our culture. You get bored, you're unhappy, or you turn 30. It's like a coming of age story. And sure, you make these promises in front of a bunch of people, but if things aren't going well, hey man, I'm out.
What's the most pain you felt that wasn't physical?
When I got divorced, I was crushed. It's mental because when you're with someone for nearly 20 years, you have children together.
Now, I definitely need to address, often women are painted as the villains in this story. They're just so prevalently bringing forward divorces in marriages where the man is unsuspecting. He didn't know there was anything wrong going on. I just think that's kind of a false characterization. As much as, yes, there is this stereotype of a woman that's, in her 30s or whatever. She gets bored, they have kids, but she wants a divorce because she wants to date again. Like, is that present? Yeah, we'll actually hear more stories of that in a second. But there's also the flip side of that, of men that are just watching TV the second they get home, right? Or that are constantly on their phones, that are distracted, that don't have any intentionality in their relationship, that aren't leading, that are passive. So there's two sides to this coin. But as young men, when you're watching these stories and you're hearing this pain in this man's voice, why would you want to put yourself out there to experience this kind of pain? Like, man, if I have the opportunity as a non-Christian young man to get in a relationship where I can get free sex without marriage, okay, and I can even have a family in that relationship, then why would I want marriage? What is it gaining me by putting a rock on her finger? And I feel like that is why our culture is so fixated on this idea of a boyfriend that has just been like stringing out this girl for so long, not giving her that ring, not giving her that wedding. And why? Because they already live together. Because he already has essentially everything that he wants. So why would he go above and beyond? One of the things I want to emphasize to you, if you're a young man watching this video and you too are questioning like, bro, why would I want to get married? Like, why? I understand it's a covenant before God. Like, I understand that, and that God loves marriage. But at the end of the day, it just feels like too big of a risk. It feels like too much pressure, too much risk of them leaving or abandoning me. If that's you, stay with me because I have a word for you in just a bit.
Can we skip to the good part?
It doesn't really work that way.
What do you mean? I did the thing with the hand.
Yeah, no, that's not actually real.
We got to understand that the culture is telling women a lie that, hey, you might be in that marriage and it might be okay, but it also might not be so good. And if it's not so good and you're not so happy, then you know what? There's plenty of other options out there. Divorce is always an option. So just see that the grass is greener on the other side. You can start dating again. You want that thrill again. Maybe he'll be intentional again and bring you on dates again. And that would be so fun. And so these women, they buy into this lie, but then they're faced with the reality, the truth.
So recently I caught up with an old friend and she was telling me that she got divorced. And I was so surprised because her and her husband were such a cute couple and they had been together for 11 years. So I asked her, like, what happened? I figured something bad happened. She's like, honestly, I was just bored. Like, my husband, all he did was work. I was a stay-at-home mom. We had 3 kids and I just got lonely and bored. And she says that when she would bring it up, like, he would take her out, but it was just boring to her. Like, she needed some excitement in her life. She just felt like she was just a mom and a wife, and her husband just wasn't doing that for her. So they ended up getting divorced, and now, she's single, she lives alone, she's working, and she's dating. So then I told her, oh, well, that must be exciting, like dating and stuff. And she's like, no, I hate it. And I was like, why? And she's like, because all they want to do is just have fun. They just want to go to the club. They just want to go to the bar. They just want to hang out, have a good time, and then that's it. She said no one wants to help me out. Like, I'm trying to find someone that's going to help take care of my kids. She's like, I just want someone to be a provider, not just a good time.
As I'm watching this, it's so evident the brokenness in our culture, the brokenness in our world regarding marriage, right? This woman, she bought into the lie that, hey, you know what? I'm bored. And so let me just try something else. Let me try some other people and let me leave my husband after 11 years. Wow. That's heartbreaking. And then she finds out the truth, man, like none of these young guys want to take care of my family because it's not their family. It's my family. And I ran away from my family, my husband, who was there called by God to provide for me, which he was. And you know what? Like, I'm sure he had faults in there too. But when you are struggling, like when you're not connecting, you don't just leave. This reminds me of something that I've been learning. Sin is when we're looking for other things to fill what only God can fill, right? These women are going out there that they're looking for something else, some excitement, some purpose, somebody to, really value them. They're looking for somebody to fill that part of them that still feels lonely even inside of marriage. And the truth is that you can get married as many times as you want. You can have those flings, you can have those hookups, and yet nothing, as much as the partner could do better and he could love them better and be more intentional and all those things, nothing's going to quench that real deep internal loneliness of heart and need for fulfillment and wholeness. That is where Jesus has to fill. That is where Jesus has to fill. And so if you're looking for marriage to fill that part of you, or if you're looking for free sex or whatever to fill that part in you, you're going to be disappointed, and you're always going to be looking for that next thing. So in the midst of this conversation, here are 5 rules that I think you should follow if you're thinking about marriage, whether you're excited or fearful. The first rule is seek the right woman. Don't go just after, is she pretty, right? Oh, she's crazy, but she's pretty at least. You should look at yourself too to see if you're meeting the expectations that you're putting on your future wife. But you shouldn't settle, right? Don't just look for who's the most attractive, who's the hottest, whatever, who gives you the most butterflies, because you're going to be married to this person. If you get married to them, you're going to be married to them 25, 35 years, whatever, 45 years. Physical appearance fades, but the heart remains. The second rule is surrender your fear to God. Is it a possibility that you could find this woman that's amazing, that you love, that's a godly woman, you get married, and years later things happen and she divorces you or she walks away? Like, could that happen? Yeah, it could happen, right? And I know stories, I have, acquaintances that has happened to them, and I don't really have an explanation for that. Like, I don't have any kind of, other than just wanting them to experience the peace and comfort of God in that situation that just seems ridiculously tragic. I don't have a way that you can, this is that key trait that he didn't notice, that's why, she left. That's why she's just a little bit crazy or whatever. The real tricky thing is that you don't know. And so what can we do? What can we control? Well, God says that marriage is a good thing, and that man shall leave his father and his mother and become one flesh with his wife. If that's a desire for you, then see marriage as a good thing and surrender your fear to God. What does that look like? God, I give you my fear. I'm scared. I'm worried that I'm going to be betrayed or backstabbed. I'm scared that she's going to leave me. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, and I just don't want to end up as one of those divorced dads in the future. I don't want that. I surrender that to you in this moment. Please give me peace and discernment. Rule 3, step into your calling. As a young man, you're called to be sober-minded. And then when you get married one day, as a husband, you're called to love your wife, to be gentle with her. For ladies, when you're married, you're called to submit and to respect him. This is a high calling. It's a good calling, this covenantal relationship. This is something to strive towards. Rule number 4 is don't use your fear as an excuse to walk in the flesh. I see this all the time. Young guys that say, you know what, marriage is complete crap. People are getting divorced. Women are just leaving and betraying, and they're just using men essentially. And it's just a bad deal. And then when divorce happens, you lose everything. So why would I want that? And then what do these young guys do? Well, let me just get in these different relationships. Let me have this free sex, fornication. Let me live with the person because I'm allowed to, because you know what? Marriage is a fraud. Marriage doesn't work. All these kind of things. But they use it as an excuse to walk in the flesh. I understand the fear. I understand that, but don't use that as an excuse to go against what God has called you to. Because as much as you feel like men get used in marriage, you're using this woman. Don't do it. This last rule is for the ladies. Ladies, do not buy the lie. Do not buy the lie. Maybe you're married right now, and you know what? Your husband isn't being very intentional. He's being passive. He's being kind of a slob. He's lazy. He's not leading you spiritually. You're looking other directions. You're wondering, is this all there is? Now, I'm talking here about a lazy, passive husband, not an abusive husband, because that would be much different advice. But if you have a lazy, passive husband, you know what? Your faithfulness to him images Christ in his faithfulness to us. When we were lazy, when we were passive, when we were apathetic to our relationship with him, he waited for us. And you're doing that in your marriage as you're waiting for him. I really do believe all this comes down to, at the end of the day, trust in God. Do we trust God to take care of us regardless of the trials that we experience? For the guys, we're scared of being betrayed, being left, being abandoned. For the girls, we're scared of being trapped, of being bored, of being captive in a relationship we don't really want to be in. Can we trust God regardless of the trial that we face, or the abandonment that we face, or the boredom that we face? that he is good, that he loves us, and that we can rely on him for everything that we need. We can lay down the idol of marriage and sex and all this stuff. We can trust God, that he can fill us, that he can give us what we need, that he can satisfy our hearts, even when what's going on the outside is hard. I pray this video is a blessing to you, and until next time, God bless.